Good morning, Charles.
Hey there, Dan. How we doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Me too. I recently got a new pepper mill at the grocery store for grinding my peppercorns onto my food,
Okay.
like I'm in a restaurant. My last peppercorn mill, I was trying to grind some pepper into the beef stew I was making last week or the week before.
Okay.
And the top fell off and a bunch of whole peppercorns fell into my Instant Pot.
Oof.
Now,
Wow.
it may be a testimony to how good of a chef I am. I didn't really notice any change in the flavor.
I
mean, I wasn't going to spend the time to fish them all out. I was just like, let's see what happens. It didn't affect it. So
that's a win.
Yeah, exactly. So new pepper mill. That's exciting. Went out to dinner with my friend last night. He recently sold his office building, which congratulations to him. Though my office is in that building, so now I have to clean everything out of it before they close and sell it to the new person. And so naturally, I waited to the day before the closing to start that process. And
naturally,
still going a little crazy. I got a couple more things I got to run over there as soon as we're done with this recording this podcast. I got to run over to grab a couple more things out of there. But anyway, I took him to dinner last night to congratulate him. We went to Fishbones, where you took me for my birthday.
And I saw what you ate
online.
That looked
I killed
phenomenal.
another 16-ounce bone-in fillet with truffle butter. That's my go-to. That's my favorite.
Did you do the truffle shuffle after you had the truffle butter?
No, I stumbled out of there, drove home, and fell asleep. But it was good, and it's probably my favorite steak in Orlando now is the 16-ounce bone-in fillet. And also tried, it's a little harder to find carnivorous side dishes because most of them are veggies or starches.
Yeah.
So we ordered the char-grilled oysters beforehand as an appetizer.
How was that?
It was good. And then I, all the entrees come with a salad there. So for my salad, I tried to do the least damage possible by getting the wedge. So it's iceberg wedge, but came with a ton of blue cheese and a bunch of pork belly. And so I mostly ate the pork belly, dipped in the blue cheese, and I had a little bit of the iceberg lettuce. But if any vegetable is basically a non-vegetable, it's probably lettuce and celery, because there's just like nothing to them, or iceberg lettuce specifically.
Right. Yeah.
So it was good. Skip dessert again, which
I like my iceberg lettuce completely pale and white and just sickly looking, just really,
Yeah, it's completely devoid of nutrients, but it would also be devoid of any toxins. So it works out.
Give me a quarter of that. Yeah. Give me a whole no. Just give me a quarter of that head. That looks so delicious.
Yeah, it's really it's really just a holding place for other food, isn't it? Like iceberg lettuce. It's just like you put a bunch of crumbled blue cheese and a bunch of blue cheese dressing and some bacon, and had them leave the tomatoes off. But yeah, it was I don't know, felt like I had a little something before my steak.
Now that you're doing the animal-based 30, and I know you also had a New Year's resolution to start eating tomatoes.
Yes.
I'm seeing a little bit of a conflict in interest here.
So have I.
How is this working out for you?
Well, I've got the way I see it, I'm doing the animal-based 30. I'm not going to switch to carnivore only for the rest of my life. I think I'm probably going to transition more to a no sugar, no grain, generic keto, paleo type thing. Well, not really keto, because no sugar, no grain, I usually let myself have fruit whenever I want to. And so my daily carbs are probably going to be too high to, strictly speaking, be in ketosis, but I will be free of, gas station Reese's peanut butter cups and big gulps full of Mountain Dew and things like that, which I don't really, that's not my problem, but it'll be something I keep eliminating. And then I was actually at Lowe's yesterday, picking up some stuff. I was thinking maybe I'll try growing my own tomatoes right here
Oh.
outside my place, and get the pot and the little cage that you have to do. And I probably
Nice.
need to do something to protect it from bugs too. So I probably have to put the little nets around them as well. But I'm thinking about, getting some seeds and starting all the way from scratch, making my own, growing my own tomatoes, and then learning to like tomatoes by eating my own tomatoes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I learned to like psychedelic mushrooms. I just grew them myself and I just ate them, and it was
Right,
perfect.
right.
I took right to it.
Well, growing tomatoes in Florida has been a little bit of a challenge for me. I've tried that a few times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and a lot of times bugs eat them, birds eat them.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Well, there's got to be strategies.
No, people do it, absolutely. I mean,
that.
I just do not. I have two left green thumbs. It's not, I don't I'm not.
I'm pretty sure when you're not good at growing things, it's called having a brown thumb.
Oh, it was a brown thumb. It's not two left feet.
No, I made that up. Don't say that to anybody.
Oh, okay.
I made that up. Don't
I like it. I think we're going to start going. I like brown thumb.
I've got a brown thumb. Oof. Don't tell me how that happened.
You got to stop messing around in the dirt. Yeah, I think that's just an excuse and a delay tactic to not eat tomatoes, because it's going to take a while for those tomatoes to grow. So,
that's a good point. I'll have to start eating them before that.
You're making excuses and you're letting fear come into your life here about tomatoes. And
I think certainly not what I'm doing.
I think this next chapter is absolutely going to help you with that, overcoming those fears. So,
what else will help me overcome that fear is, when we get done, I will Google the best caprese salad in all of Orlando and then make you go to that place with me to eat it.
All right. I will document this and all of the wonderful expressions you put on your face as you dig into that caprese.
I mean, it looks so good, and I like mozzarella so much. So it's got to, I got to be able to figure out a way.
I mean, yeah, if you get tomatoes that actually have some flavor to them, and then you mix that with a little bit of the vinegar and the balsamic that comes with caprese and stuff, and then you add if you've got some decent mozzarella and have a little creaminess from that, and that just all those flavors and those textures coming together, it's delicious. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and then you get some fresh basil, and you're all over the place. You got the spice and the creaminess. Yeah, it's fantastic.
We'll find the best Italian restaurant in town that's known for their caprese salad, and we'll go try it, and we'll document the whole thing. Throw it up on the Instagram.
That sounds great.
I'll have a black coffee and a caprese salad, while some idiots playing the violin right by my ear, and then I'll conquer all three at once.
So so I want to bring you back to your friend who actually started selling everything off, and I wanted to actually, and I kind of prompted you to start the podcast because this would be interesting to hear. I know I'm definitely interested in learning about how you're living, with your lifestyle and basically simpler and to me, it seems a lot less stressful, and I've been to your place a few times, and it's definitely peaceful and nice. So,
thanks.
Why don't you kind of rewind and go back into, somebody who had quite a bit of stuff and is now kind of consolidating.
Yeah. So my buddy AJ has sold his office building. He sold his house, and right now he's living up in South Carolina most of the time to help take care of some of his older relatives. But he lives in a Winnebago converted Mercedes Sprinter van, and that's where he lives now, and is able to travel around. And he started a couple, probably not even a year, I don't think, after I got my camper. He got an RV, and then he traded down for a smaller one to the Sprinter van. But his Sprinter van is awesome. I mean, it's got like big tires on it where he can drive it everywhere. He's got batteries and a generator, so he can be out in the middle of nowhere for a while and stuff. It's really cool. And he's telling me last night that he had I think he said he had a dream about working for Google out in California, because they have like a whole place set up on their campus where people who live in vans can like park their vans and live on the Google campus and work there. And they have all the hookups and, you know, places for showers and all that stuff.
Oh,
so
that's
people
great.
I know, it sounds amazing.
That's great. So and you said he had a house, he had a business. I mean,
he had a house, he had a business. He sold both of those,
and a building or part of a building.
The building that I had my office in. Yeah. And so
he's gone on down to just the Sprinter van at this point.
Yeah, I think he's got a small storage space where he keeps some stuff, but he's drastically gotten rid of stuff just like I did a few years ago. And that whole process is interesting and stressful of really trying to, because the guys from the Minimalist podcast, they say that the average American home has 300,000 individual possessions in it. Like if you counted up every item in your house, it usually numbers around 300,000.
Oh my gosh. So there's a lot of decision making that needs to go into this process, and probably a lot of heartache at some point.
It really did. Yeah. I mean, the good thing is, with the ability to take pictures and store your pictures of things in the cloud now.
Yeah.
The space taken up by photo albums and stuff like that and picture frames, a lot of that can go away, where you could just have a digital copy of it. And if at any point in the future you decide, hey, I want a physical copy of this again, you can certainly do that.
And even my ex actually gave me this idea is, instead of keeping that actual memento from, let's say, a loved one that may have passed away or just some sort of memory from your childhood that really isn't serving any kind of purpose. Maybe it's an old rug. For me, I have my mom's old purse sitting around because it reminds me of when I was a kid. I always used to like walk into the kitchen, and that was like the first. She had this very like maroon bright purple purse, and there's so much of my childhood surrounded that. I kept that after she passed away, but it's like it's just it's sitting on my shelf like a museum piece. So let's take a picture of it. Now you still have it as a memory, and you can still refer back to it, and it's not taking up space, and it's not occupying your brain space either as you're walking by and seeing all this clutter.
Yeah, I like that idea. I don't have. I typically don't buy a lot of mementos and things like that. One thing I will do is when I'm visiting someplace new, I will often try to find a cute little magnet, and then I keep the magnets on the hood above my range.
Yeah,
in my camper. So I've got a Grandfather Mountain magnet from the first long hike I went on when I went up to the Banner Elk area of North Carolina, and I hiked Grandfather Mountain. It took me, I think that first hike took me 14 hours, but I did like every trail on the mountain. I wanted to go to every lookout and stuff. So at the top of the mountain is a gift shop, and I went to the gift shop and I bought a magnet. So now I got the magnet.
Nice.
And then I've got a couple of other kitschy little cute magnets from trips. 2 trips that my ex and I went on. I got Puerto Rico and Maui.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so every new trip, I'm going to get a new magnet until I run out of magnet space on the hood above my stovetop.
And you take a picture of the magnets and
exactly that when I
rotate them out.
Exactly.
Right?
I'll take a picture of the magnet and then say, okay, you're the oldest one. I'm gonna cycle you out. But speaking of hikes, I've decided to after unsuccessfully registering for the lottery to get a permit to hike Mount Whitney last year, I am going to try again this year. And I think that lottery opens on February 15th. And so I got to put in my name and my contact info and pay like a really small fee, I believe. And then I give them a list of 15 dates that I would like to hike the mountain. And then they pull my entry out at random. And if any of those dates are still available when they pull my number, then I get to go hike the mountain.
Oh, wow.
14,000 feet. That will be the highest I've been in my life, not inside of an airplane.
What do most people usually need to take? I mean, how long do people usually need to hike that? And I'm a mere mortal, not somebody who's,
Oh, I'm a very slow hiker. I walk very slowly. I mean, whether I'm just walking
you're
around,
stopping for magnets too. So I mean,
that's true.
I can
Yes.
understand that could impact your time.
Yes. So you can do it in one day. You can start like super early in the morning and end super late at night and do it in one day. I will not be doing that. I'm going to get the overnight camping permit where I'll be on the mountain for one night. I'll sleep one night on the way up. And I think that's it. I think you can generally come back in one day.
And you need to bring your own. Is there a place to stay, or you have to bring your own tent?
You bring tent, sleeping bag. You bring a bag for pooping in that you have to then carry with you and take off the mountain.
Oh yeah, carry in, carry out.
That's it works. I think they call it a wag bag, which the challenge is always, okay, how can I possibly work this where I can have enough calories to give me the energy I need to do this hike, but not have to poop on the mountain. It's like, is there a way to work that out? If there is, I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
But so I'm, last year, my ex-girlfriend and I, we applied together to get the permit to do it. And so two people obviously have half or less than half the chance of a single hiker. Because big parties will often want to go hike together and stuff. So the being a single, I think I stand better than double chance of winning the lottery this year where I did not last year.
Gotcha.
So that's the plan, and I'm gonna you generally try to get dates that are close to a full moon so that you can have good visibility at night, because you start hiking way before sunrise, and you're gonna probably stop hiking after sunset. So the nights closest to a full moon are the most in demand, because that's when you have the most ability to see.
Oh, that's fantastic. What kind of temperatures can you expect that time of year?
The 4 full moons that I'm going to try to get my dates around are July, August, September, October. Early July, like around 4th of July, is the first one. And it's pretty likely that there will still be snow on the ground, snow and ice in July. August, September, the snow and ice is probably gone. Early October, there's a chance that it could have started getting cold again already. So
all right.
August, September is really what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that I get the dates around the full moon in August or the full moon in September, because that will be the best weather. But yeah, it can get pretty cold. So I'll have to have I'll probably have like a long sleeve Under Armour shirt, then a Columbia fleece vest, and then a jacket or a rain shell to go on top of that. So nice. maybe even a little bit more than that. I don't know. I'll have to I read a bunch of books last year when I was researching the trip, and I still got them. So I'll have to go back to them and look up all the advice.
You going to change up your training at all to prepare for it?
Big time. So the way it works is from the day that they announce what day you get to hike it to the earliest day I'm picking is 15 weeks, which most of the training regimes that I've looked at are around 12 weeks. So hopefully that'll give me enough time to, get in the shape I need to get in. Although in Florida, I'm a little bit limited to what I can do, because there's no places to hike around here that aren't flat. So it's mostly going to be time in the squat rack and time on the stair machine at the gym. It'll be those two. And I'm planning pretty much to, I'm not going to probably be squatting for, PRs. I'm not going to be trying to really get my numbers up. Yeah. So I'll probably be doing most of my squats at, 135 or 225. And even though I can go higher than that, I'm not going to. I'm going to mostly go for endurance and try to get as many reps in as I can. And then on off days when I'm not squatting, I'll be hitting the stair machine. And then I'll also be doing some jogging too, trying to get my cardio where it needs to go. So it'll be a miserable 12 weeks, but I'm pretty committed to. If I'm going to try this, I want to get it done. I want to get to the top. There is a guest book at the summit of the mountain where you can go up there and you can sign your name. And so I intend on getting my name in that book.
I figure just bring a magnet back. That'd be good enough. No,
there's no gift shops at 14,000 feet.
Well, that's a kick in the pants.
Yeah, so I'm gonna.
You do all that, and you sign a book that you can't even show. You can take a picture of you.
I'll definitely take a picture
of your signature in that book, and then put a magnet on top of that and hang that right there.
There you go. Oh yeah, there will be tons of pictures.
Ones.
I'm bringing the selfie stick to the top of the mountain. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the podcast live as Charles climbs the mountain.
that would be interesting. Yeah. I don't know if cell phone signals will work up there, but so yeah, I was the other thing I was looking at when I'm now that I'm starting to look at hikes, I'd like to do Machu Picchu. I may. If I don't get the lottery, if I don't win the lottery to do Mount Whitney, then I'm almost certainly going to go down to Peru and do Machu Picchu, which is a little bit different. It's longer, but it's not as high. Mm-hmm. Doing the Inca Trail is something that appeals to me. I've always wanted to do Mount Fuji in Japan. That's been on my list.
Wow. Yeah, that would be an amazing trip.
And then I also looked into doing Everest, just to the base camp, not to summit. I don't have the interest in being one of these guys that dies on their way up to the top of Everest, but I think I read that base camp is like 18,000 feet or something. It's ridiculous.
No joke. My dad attempted that at one point.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, and
we'll have to ask him about that when we interview.
Yeah, so ironically, he got some food poisoning, he was either food poisoning or elevation sickness. I can't remember. I had been experimenting with making beef jerky.
Okay. Oh no.
So, I don't know. And I made some, I didn't get sick from it. I gave my dad some, but I can't say for sure, that it wasn't my jerky or, that made him sick, or if it was.
I'm amazed you two you still talk at this point.
Well, he's a kind soul. So I think even if it was, he would never let me believe it. I think he's that kind of guy. And
wow.
We'll have him on the podcast. You can grill him. You can grill him about that. Maybe you can get to the bottom of it, because I think it was my beef jerky. And I think he said it was, yeah. Altitude sickness, not elevation sickness, altitude sickness.
Yeah, what a great lesson that I am not ready to be a father, because if my kid made me some beef jerky that got between me and Everest, I would never speak to him again.
Oh, I know. He'd been training and planning for this for a while insane. And stuff. So, but he wasn't going to the top. He's just going to the base camp. So, I mean,
yeah, just the base camp, 17,598 feet. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
So, wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
A little bit.
I don't know if I've told you before. I may have even said it on an episode of the podcast, but my worst experience with food poisoning was one year for Thanksgiving. I decided I wanted to make a turkey on my grill, on my charcoal grill.
Okay.
And I did, and the turkey came out perfect. It was one of the best turkeys I ever had in my life.
Okay.
However, the stuffing inside the turkey did not get up to the proper temperature.
Oh.
And I think only me and my grandmother, maybe one other person, ate the stuffing, and nobody had any trouble except me. It destroyed me. I was just in the bathroom, passed out for all of Thanksgiving night.
Oh no.
Just dealing with all the bad things that could happen from food poisoning were happening to me, and it was rough.
As long as we're talking about food poisoning, my 21st birthday.
Let's keep it rolling.
In college, the thing to do is you take out your friend for when they turn 21 and you make them try to drink 21 shots.
I have never heard of this before, because I was a good boy.
Yes.
We did not do this at Bible college.
Oh, no. Okay. Read 21 verses. Is that what it was? So, I mean, I've never been a heavy drinker or been able to tolerate quite a lot anyway. Right. So, we ended up not going out to the bars. Traditionally went out down to one of my fraternity brothers' new places down in, I think, the Philadelphia area, and he was having a barbecue. And so my friend's like, hey, you know what? We're gonna go to his place, and then from there we're gonna go to Atlantic City, and we're gonna celebrate your 21st in style in Atlantic City. So I was like, I'm all about it. I'm like,
that sounds cool.
I'm living like the king. So we go to the barbecue, and we get there a little bit late, and he had been cooking burgers and stuff on the grill. And so we roll up, and he's like, hey, help yourselves. Pulled some food off the grill, and probably, I don't know, might have been like a half hour, an hour later. I'm sitting in his living room, can't concentrate, start sweating. I'm just like, oh, I'm not feeling good. And everybody's like, oh, it's probably because you mixed your alcohol. You had beer, you had liquor, just a couple of drinks, whatever.
That's some solid bro science right there.
And my other fraternity brothers were like, we're going to Atlantic City. It wasn't about me. It was about their gambling issues. Right. So they're like, gotcha. we're using your 21st birthday as an excuse to go. So we go and we're sitting, the main floor. One guy's playing poker, one guy's playing blackjack, another guy's playing roulette. And I'm sitting there and I'm just sweating and not feeling good. Oh. And I go to the bathroom and then it comes out of not one hole, but both of them.
Yeah, that's
probably at the same time.
That was my stuffing situation.
And it was, I have never felt so bad before. And so I'm sweating and so apparently I had eaten a burger that had been sitting out and got a little bit cold. It'd been sitting on the grill for who knows how long. And I was like, yeah, it's meat, it's all right. I didn't think about it. Yeah. So I think that is what made me sick almost immediately. And so now I'm like passing out, from just absolute exhaustion. And it was probably 2 a.m. And, my friends are it's open 24 hours. So they're still gambling. I find a place to like lie down, where they had roped off the other casino games or nobody was there anymore.
Right.
Like a little couch or whatever. Of course, yeah. I close my eyes. 5 minutes later, security comes, pokes me, wakes me up. It's like, you can't sleep here. And yeah, it was absolutely an absolute nightmare. Yeah. And yeah. So that was my 21st. That was my 21st birthday.
It's interesting to hear a food poisoning story about beef, because usually beef is not the culprit. It's the poultry and the pork is what usually gets you.
Well, the thing was, it had been sitting out. It was cooked and had been sitting out on the grill probably all day and got cooled off, and the grill was not on. So it was cold. Yeah, that makes bacteria sense. Started to do its thing, and
that's rough.
It was probably the sickest I've ever felt.
How long did it take to recover?
COVID, so it took me, I was probably sick for like a good 36, 48 hours.
Oof, yikes.
And where I just couldn't, it was liquid coming out of both sides. It was just, never been so sick.
Yeah. Food poisoning is really the worst.
Yeah, that was
I can't think of a sick that I've been where like in the moment I wasn't just the misery level of food poisoning is just so high. And then it's like, as soon as you try to do anything about the dehydration and you put a little bit of water in your stomach, right back up. See you later.
Yep. Even water was just,
it's rough.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else disgusting I need to share before we get into the text.
So this is the last chapter of No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh, I'm excited.
Chapter 9, Get the Life You Want, Discover Your Passion and Purpose in Life, Work, and Career. So this is all about identifying the biggest contributor to, I think, the nice guy syndrome, which is anxiety and fear.
Yes.
And just really about how a lot, and not just nice guys, but a lot of us really look at the world or it can easily look at the world as a place of scarcity versus abundance, and just kind of how to transition your mindset from that fear, anxiety, scarcity mindset to hey, look, it doesn't need to be perfect. I'm not perfect. And there is a lot of abundance out there, and it is not, there isn't a fixed amount of stuff that if one person has a lot of things and is done really successful with life, that it's going to make it more difficult for you. If anything, it makes it actually easier for you to also do those things. And that's really the theme of what this chapter is all about.
I would argue, and I think you'll probably agree with me, that yes, that could be some thinking that is not entirely clear when you look around at the world. You may feel like, oh, he's got what he needs, but I'm not going to have what I need, and that's not fair, blah blah blah. It's a little counterintuitive to think, okay, no, everybody can go out there and earn what they need to have a good life, if not the good life, right?
Yeah.
But I would say that advice mostly appeals to folks living in Western cultures, where that may not translate 100% to, some of our listeners in other parts of the world. It may not be quite that easy. Now, if you have the ability to listen to a podcast on an Apple iPhone, you're probably in a place where there is some abundance, and you can build the kind of life you want for yourself. But I don't know that we live on a planet where that's 100% across the board quite yet.
Well, nothing's 100% ever, right?
True.
That's not the case. And really the book talks about, is tailored, for people who are living in a Western type of culture and society as well. So I think, it does apply to most people that, like you said, are listening to, do listen to podcasts. And, so I think the other thing to think about too is, you look at the people who have this, these successes, you can see what they've done. A lot of times they will share and also often help to teach and educate you on how they did what they did, or ways that you can do what you want to do. And so the fact that they've become successful, it kind of helps prove what they've done actually does work, and the methods that they use to get there do work. And that is so much that in and of itself is one of the reasons why you need to look at the way I feel is that you should look at the world as there's a lot of abundance there. There's a lot of opportunity, this day and age versus 100 years ago, even 50 or 20 years ago, with the amount of information that can be exchanged. A lot can be created a lot more easily.
I have not met a lot of successful people that are not willing to share tips and advice. If you just ask them, like, hey, I notice, you've got the kind of business I'd like to have. You have the kind of house, the kind of family, the kind of fill in the blank that I'd like to have. You have any tips for me?
Right.
And I've never had one say, mind your business.
It makes total sense, because it's just another form of them. So, something drove them to be successful in whatever industry, wherever they are in life, and they've accomplished that. Okay. They've done really well. So how else can they feel good? How else can they derive joy and fulfillment and satisfaction in life by basically being able to help others is I think a big factor for them. And it's something that they haven't, not everybody has done that. And so it's just another way for them to feel good and feel like they're contributing. So I think, whenever I'm asked for advice, I'm excited. I feel,
yeah, me too.
I'm happy to give it. And I feel like, this is a value exchange, and I get something out of it too. So that's kind of it's kind of a thing to think about. It's one of the points that Glover makes in this chapter, is that don't be afraid to ask for help, because and don't feel like, just because you may come from a paradigm as a child, where your needs aren't being met, that your needs aren't important, that it's risky to ask for something that you need, because you might then, you might not get those needs met.
Right.
You might cause problems. You might make people upset, but pause for a second and just realize you're giving somebody a compliment, first of all, because you're like saying, hey, I see that you have this expertise in this area. You've been successful. So one, it's a compliment. And two, you're giving them an opportunity to feel good about themselves by helping you. And think about, when you help somebody, as if a stereotypical nice guy, right? They live and breathe for helping other people sometimes, and they feel good about that. So other people are going to feel good about that too. And I'm actually talking through this right now, almost for myself, because I'm one of those guys who really, most of my life, didn't want to go to other people, friends or family, for help for anything. And I was right there where I was like, I don't want to bother with them. I don't, why would they want to help me? I'm being selfish by asking. And if anything, I was putting up a wall of connecting with them, because I would have allowed them to help me, making them feel good and also letting them get to know me a little bit better. I would have been closer to them, and I would have benefited from their experience, and it would have made my life so much better. And one of my good friends from New Jersey actually had told me that when I was looking for my first house, I kind of did it all on my own, and there were some problems with the house afterwards, and there's issues that I didn't really anticipate or know about, but all of my friends had this collective knowledge that they could have helped me. And he just very casually said to me one time, he's like, "Hey man, you didn't ask anybody for help. We would have helped you out with this, with doing these things, And I remember, I needed to get the house painted, the walls. I wanted to paint all the walls on the inside, and it was so uncomfortable for me to ask my friends and family to come and help. And like, I was given, I had pizza and beer and paint, and we had like a big paint party and stuff. Everybody had a great time and they loved doing it. And it was, it was a little baby step, but it really reminded me that people like to connect and people like to help. So
yeah, they do. And certainly asking them about how they've accomplished something. I mean, one of the other books that you and I are currently reading, and I don't want to spoil the title because we're gonna do it for one of these book club podcasts down the road, is it just talks about how you can build connections with people because they love talking about themselves. Right? I mean, people want to be able to tell their story, and it's very rare that anybody gives you the attention or the opportunity by saying, "Hey, I see that you've done this. Why don't you tell me the story behind it?" And people love doing that. But speaking of questions, so the beginning of chapter 9, Dr. Glover starts out with 4 questions, which I think are designed to really allow you to visualize the kind of life you could have if you weren't limited by believing what you are capable of or what you deserve, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it'd be fun to go through this list and both answer them and tell everybody, for example, where we would live if there were no limits on our life. Where would you choose to live?
I would definitely be living on either an island or on the beach, where I just walk out my door and the sand and the water are right there.
Okay. Do you have any places in mind when you think about it? Like, what kind of places do you think of?
Well, like mostly. So I don't want to be like on a deserted island or like a remote, where there's nobody around. I would
you want to be able to drive to a Home Depot when you need to.
I want the conveniences. I want all my conveniences of modern life, but I want when I look out my window, it's just ocean, water, and a beach there and nature. That's something that just relaxes me and puts me in a great mood, and just makes everything a little bit lighter in life.
All right, I'm gonna one up you on this one, as I like to do. I would like to split my time where I have a place exactly like you described, but then also a place in the mountains. Yeah, and I could go between them whenever I wanted to. That would be my ideal.
I wouldn't mind that either. The one vision I've always had as a child, since if you remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, of course.
Remember Cameron?
Yeah.
And when they found the Ferrari, or his dad's Ferrari, in that
the glass
garage that was elevated in the woods, and you look around and it's just nothing but trees and everything else like that. And then I remember when it goes through that glass, when he drove it through the glass but I looked at, and I'm like, I initially wanted a bathroom that basically was in the same thing as that garage, where I could sit there, on the throne and just nothing but woods, right? But elevated, not at the bottom, right? Elevated like that garage. And I could look around and all I would see is woods. So I'd literally be, by myself, in this glass, on the throne, looking at the woods. But I would love a house just like that, where it just, And I mean, a view of the mountains would be phenomenal as well. Something Greece has some incredible mountains. Like
I'm sure.
When I went to Santorini in 2019, we had dinner at the top of one of the hills in Greece, but you look around and there's it's an old volcano. So you've got the water, but you've got these huge mountains coming out of the water, almost in like a circle where the volcano used to be, where they theorize where it was. And it's just this breathtaking. I've got a picture of it. I'll reshare it to you next time you're over here. I'll show you where it is. And it was just, taking that picture brought tears to my eyes being there. And
we have to post the picture with the show notes now for sure.
All right. Yeah, we'll do that. I've never felt anything like it.
That's amazing. When I think of the mountains that, that I'd like to be around, that first trip I made to Yosemite, and not even just the hike to the top of Half Dome, but just the drive into Yosemite National Park. I'm just looking around and it's blowing my mind.
Oh, wow.
I would say Northern California or some spots, like Pacific Northwest, like the Upper Rockies would do it for me. I think I'd like to now. I could still do well. We'll get to that on question 4.
Yeah.
What would you be doing in your leisure time?
My leisure time.
You'd be laying by the beach, surfing. What would you be doing?
I would like to learn to surf for sure, but mostly I think would be spending time on the water in a boat.
Okay. All right.
That's something that I really enjoy doing. And driving the boat and docking it up to a place where there's some bars and restaurants, some people are playing some acoustic guitar, kind of roll up for a nice lunch, maybe a couple of cocktails, listen to somebody playing covers from the 90s grunge covers on acoustic.
You're selling it, man. I like
it. MTV Unplugged, like Nirvana 100%. Or Gross and Petty, that would be fantastic. And just doing a variety of different things, just bowling and working out and taking different, education classes and attending different seminars and stuff. I love learning and anything around personal development, growth. So all of those things I would do more of. I do a little bit of that now, but basically, ideally I'd be doing that a lot more.
Yeah, I would say that the number one for me, the thing I like the most probably of anything in my leisure time is going on a hike with my AirPods in and either listening to a new book I'm excited about or a new episode of a podcast. Like when I see that one of my favorite podcasts has a guest who I have heard before, and I like the guest, I like the host, and they're going to talk to each other. I get so excited about that.
Yeah.
And just going on a nice long hike while I'm listening to some music and taking pictures of the stuff around me. That's probably my favorite thing to do. My favorite way to spend time.
That's awesome.
Okay. What kind of work would you be engaged in? Enterprise Vault migrations, I assume.
Honestly, it would probably be, first of all, this podcast is phenomenal. I'm super excited that we found this. So I would definitely want to be doing.
Excuse me, Dan. We did not find this. We created this.
Fair enough. For me, it was kind of a found thing. Me too, for sure. Right. That thankfully that you kind of pushed a little bit, and I definitely would have hesitated, and I've been hesitating, and I've tried a few different things and stuff, but I really enjoy this, and I would definitely see myself doing some podcasting, and as well as maybe some coaching and with some one-on-one or group coaching around personal development, overcoming obstacles,
right,
and creating habits.
Sure.
So that type of work is for me so rewarding, and I enjoy it so much. And brainstorming. I love just having conversations with people around ideas that they have. I love working through that with them, brainstorming those ideas. Hey, what are you running into? What do you want to do? And then I get super excited if I can be, led in on how those results are going and to see the progress that's being made. And if somebody can actually put those things, those ideas into actionable items and create something. I mean, that's just the cherry on top. That's just bonus. But I love brainstorming ideas and letting my mind get creative. So that's the kind of work I'd be engaging in. How about yourself?
Yeah, my answer is going to look a lot like yours. I love the idea of spending my time, which I can't even believe I'm about to say this, because this feels like a different person from who I identify myself as, but spending my time helping people to develop skills that I find both valuable in myself and lacking in myself. So the stuff that I find is important for me to be able to do, but that I just doesn't come automatically for me. The stuff I have to work at is the stuff I want to help other people at, because it just makes it easier for me to stay on my own track and keep those things a priority, because it's like, okay, you're not just doing this for you. It's like, you need to constantly be getting better at this so you can help other people get better at it too.
I mean, you're already doing this with the podcast. I think this was your idea based on the book, that the book has been so helpful for you, and you wanted to go deeper, and you wanted to really, it's a form of teaching through this podcast. And so I think it's definitely helped me go deeper, and it's helped me identify more things in my life, because I've read it a few times, I've listened to it a few times, and it wasn't until we started doing this podcast where, we basically said, all right, you're responsible for this chapter, I'm responsible for that chapter.
Right.
And by doing that, I was like, wow, wait a minute. It made me think, and it really, this is something that happened to me that I can relate to, that is identified here. And through that awareness, it's brought me a little bit of a sense of peace in a weird way, even though it's not like I've kind of worked through it or whatever. Just being aware has already made me feel better.
Yeah, I mean, and what better accountability is there than to say, okay, hey, everybody, I think this thing is important, and I'm going to plant a flag right here that says this stuff's important. Yeah. Now, watch the way I live, because I'm going to start telling you every week how important it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I mean, I can see how it could bring peace, but it's also a lot of pressure of like, I'm going to be on this. I mean, not to brag, but we are the number 29 relationship podcast in all of India.
Whoa. Easy, big fella. Try not to let that head get too big. You have to grease your ears with Vaseline to get it through the door. 29.
Yeah. So we're out there, man.
Thank you, India. We appreciate your support.
We do.
Cheers.
I look forward to our live podcast from the Taj Mahal that will never happen. I mean, we'll have to crack the top 20 to afford a trip like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it certainly is. I mean, to say, hey, everybody, we think being a man with a happy, healthy, exciting life is super important, and we're going to try to help you get to that goal. So we better have that happy, healthy, exciting life ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to feel like frauds.
Right.
So it is a bit of it's a bit pressure inducing, but that's the kind of work that I would like to be involved in, where I can help guys find, what are the weak areas in their life that they would be, stuff that's in the way of having the life that they want. And how can they address that? Because I want to answer that question for myself, and I want to address those things.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of work that I'm excited about too, as well as obviously, fixing printers with paper feed jams. Still super excited about that.
PC load letter. What the?
Yeah, I've seen a great meme making its way around recently again on Instagram that says, I'm not sure what they meant when Rage Against the Machine named their band Rage Against the Machine. We don't know what kind of machine it is, but I assume it was a printer.
Yeah, when I started out doing PC support, oh my God, and having to change those ink cartridges. I mean, it was like you were fingerprinted at the police station every time you had to change that cartridge, and you're just a mess. Yeah.
Those were the days. Okay, last question. What would your home and surroundings look like?
Well, didn't we already cover that kind of?
Well, no, your actual house. You covered your dwelling.
Oh,
we didn't ask for it, but you went down that road anyway. So
we know what my bathroom would look like. So what
we
about
know
you?
exactly what your bathroom.
What about your
like.
bathroom? What would your John and
this
look like?
Some people will find this unbelievable, but my dream home is a slightly bigger camper than the one that I have right now. And that's it. So maybe I'm in a 19-footer right now.
Mm-hmm.
I got my eye on the Jayco 25 RB is the name of the floor plan, and that's the one I want. And I think that's really, I mean, I'm happy in what I got. I learned when I moved into this camper that there's really only three things I need in life to be happy: a functioning, high-powered air conditioner, a comfortable bed, and a good internet connection. And if I have those three things, I can be happy pretty much anywhere, any place, doing anything.
That's great.
Yeah. And
how about this? Where would you park it? Since you'd have your home,
that's the thing.
And you have your home in the mountains.
I would have two identical trailers, one in each location.
Oh, there we go.
And they would be set up exactly the same. It'd be the same floor plan, the same trailer, and I would have one in each location.
Nice.
Maybe I would change the paint on the walls or the flooring or something like that. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. It probably doesn't even have to be the exact same floor plan. In fact, I may keep this current camper as being one of them and then upgrade to the other one, and then I could have one in each location, and I would have the kind of money that you have rolling in when you're in the top 10 of relationship podcasts in India. You can afford to pay lot rent in both places all the time, even though you're only spending 6 months in each one. You know what I'm saying? So that's the goal. Crack the top 10 in relationship podcasts in India, and then it's all gravy.
Dreams.
Big dreams. Yeah. And I think it'll probably only take us, 18 or 20 years to get there. And then
drop in the bucket.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, as young as we are and the benefits of medical science, I mean, come on, we'll live well into our 180s, 190s, I'm sure.
That's going to be great.
All right. Well, I think I enjoyed that exercise. So now let's very briefly gloss over the rest of the chapter. We can be done.
Right. Yeah. So, one of the things he talks about is that, the fear that comes about and the creation of some dysfunctional relationships is very similar to the way he handles his life and his job, where he's creating these dysfunctional relationships with, or these dysfunctional situations with his job for a lot of the same reasons he creates these dysfunctional relationships with people.
Right.
And, a lot of times that, that can also come to rear its ugly head in terms of, being afraid to ask for things that he was promised. So you're kind of afraid to be, confrontational about things. You're afraid to make changes because you're not sure what might happen. So you may not be willing to go back to school for additional training or education. And just, you end up making excuses why you can't do these things. You can't make these changes in your career. And these are all what Glover's saying is these are all really related to coming from fear more than like life situations. So
yeah. And that's one of the things I like so much about the format of this book, whereas he basically takes the first 6 chapters to explain, what the limitations that a nice guy puts on himself, what they are, where they came from, and then overall how you can address them. And then chapters 7, 8, and 9 are basically where he drills down and says, here's how these traits ruin your relationships. Here's how they ruin your sex life. Here's how they ruin your career. And here's what you can do to stop them from ruining those things.
Right. Yeah. He kind of builds that awareness, right? So first it's kind of, hey, I can identify with all of these things at the beginning of the book. And then he's going, well, did you know that these are the consequences of these things? Mm-hmm. And that, right. So it's really kind of taking you through that process of, identifying and then being aware of those items. And then it gives some solid advice on how to move forward and start resolving them. A part that I have thought was also interesting is a fear of not just failing, but he also talks about people actually have a fear of success.
Yes.
And, I know we kind of go through that every once in a while with the podcast too, is in terms of fearing that we'll be found out to be frauds for some reason. Right. And so that for me, that's good for us because it means it forces us to stay authentic and really, share our true selves, because that's the only way we cannot be frauds. Right. So talk about that pressure, the pressure to stay authentic and do just be, hey, this is who we are, and get uncomfortable being vulnerable and putting those walls down. And, it starts to get a little bit more comfortable over time. And I know I've seen, you've gotten so much more relaxed about it than from our first podcast, for sure.
Oh yes. I mean,
we've only done a handful, and I love it because it also inspires me and reminds me, hey, I need to relax a little bit myself on certain things. Right.
Yeah. How many false starts did we have on episode number 1? I want to say we tried it 3 times before we had one, and it was mostly me being I can't put this out there. I'm scared.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've learned in the last half of 2021 is that between breaking up with my girlfriend, going to getting back into therapy, and deep diving into this book, man, anxiety is like the root of all problems. It's like this fear of, what if the future's not okay? What if I'm not okay in the future? What happens if, somewhere down the line, I don't get my needs met? And I never really identified myself as a person with a problem with anxiety at all. I mean, and I've had friends and partners who dealt with anxiety, and I always just had this attitude of, oh, that's not me, that's not my problem.
So
oh my gosh, it's so my problem.
So I think, and you may have fallen into this case too, for me, whenever I've heard or thought of anxiety, I always thought of it as almost like this paralyzing disease state where it's very obvious that,
like a panic attack.
Yeah. And it's it helped. I've redefined that word to mean, just kind of fear. And it doesn't have to be where it paralyzes you and everything else like that.
Right.
But it, it's there on a low level in a lot of different situations, rearing its ugly head. And so instead of going, oh, anxiety, I don't have that disease, right? It's actually more subtle than that a lot of times.
Right.
And that's what this book's helped me out with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that unconscious motivation of that question I mentioned of, what if the future's not okay? And you've got that unconscious motivation that colors every choice you make, every way you react to a problem is, oh no, what if the future's not okay? And again, because I've never had a panic attack, and that's the thing that I've never had an emotional breakdown where I start crying for no reason because I'm nervous or anything like that. But I have let that question of, what if the future is not okay, color, and the way I usually respond to it is by trying to get an iron grip on whatever situation I'm in and trying to take control of it, and that soothes my anxiety of, what if the future's not okay? If I just take over this conversation or take over the situation or whatever it is, then I'll feel a little bit better.
Yeah,
but it's only a little bit better for a little while, and it doesn't address the underlying condition.
And Glover mentioned that as one of the things is seizing that control, and really one of the keys to moving through that is letting go of control. And by letting go of control and letting life happen, and realize that nothing's going to be perfect, you can't control everything.
Right.
You then stop stifling your creativity. So he talks about that a little bit later in the chapter, where if you are, if you're trying to control everything, you're putting a lid on creativity. If you're trying to follow every rule that you think you've created for yourself and the way the life should be, you're then stifling creativity, you're stifling productivity, and you're limiting the amount of success that you potentially have. The other piece too, in terms of fear from success, that stops people, and at times it's stopped me, and it's basically had me avoid continuing on with a project for things like not being able to live up to other people's expectations, or the amount of increased expectations that you would have if you were successful, and other things that you need to do. Fear of being criticized, fear of losing control of your life, and fear of if you mess something up, you're going to screw everything up. And all of those are, come into play in terms of that decision-making process, whether you want to move forward with that new uncomfortable venture or challenge.
It's interesting for me to think at least about the, what are the evolutionary roots of some of these anxieties that we experience. And I guess it kind of makes sense to be, think about if we're living in a hunter-gatherer society, and at some point you decide to be the one guy to stick your neck out to say, hey, I think if we go in this opposite direction, we might be able to find some good berries, or we might be able to find some good hunting grounds. So instead of doing what's, always kind of worked for us, let's go try this new thing instead and see how it works out. Mm-hmm. And then, your whole little tribe decides, okay, I'll follow Dan or Charles. They want to try this new thing. Let's see how it goes. And then you go there and there is no good hunting. There are no good berries. Then that's on you that everybody else has a hungry belly. And maybe, next time resources get scarce and they have to remember, hey, how do we get into this tough position? Oh, it was because Charles wanted to go hunt in a new place we never hunted before, and there were no animals there.
Yeah.
So it's scary to plant that flag and say, hey, everybody, I'm going to try this thing that's different. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
But the thing that we don't, our brains haven't evolved as quickly as our society, where to plant your flag and say, hey guys, I'm going to start a podcast that, I'm going to try to use to help men with their mental health and their relationships and their fitness and whatever. There is no huge price to pay for trying and failing at something like this, but our brains are wired to tell us, oh yes, there is.
Yes. Yeah. You got to talk yourself down.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's one of the benefits of meditation, is to let those thoughts run wild. And then, you wake up a little bit and you go, okay, wait a minute, those aren't accurate, or there's other information that I don't have around that. So that's helped me. Meditation's helped me with those specific types of issues.
Yeah. And the other thing that has helped me is another book that Dr. Glover recommended, I think on one of the podcast interviews I listened to him, that he said was a big deal for him, which was Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Mm-hmm. Because the question I brought up before of what if the future's not okay? There is an answer to that question. There's one correct answer to that question. And the correct answer is, I can handle it.
Yeah.
Even if the future is not perfect, even if the future is not good, I can handle it.
Yeah. Sometimes that's a tough sell, because you need to believe it in order to, so you're already feeling, even if you weren't feeling fear, right? Even if you were at a normal plane, right, and you didn't really believe that you could handle a problem, that's still a tough call. But now take the feelings of fear and anxiety, and now you're almost swimming upstream to go, not only, I have to deal with these feelings. Now I have to overcome them and move forward with something that, I don't know if I really believe. So it's very important to, take small steps and remind yourself, what the actual scope of this, this new challenge is. It's like you said, Charles, it's not life or death. And sometimes you just got to say that, to yourself over and over again, to kind of keep moving forward.
And so much of the time, the outcome that we're afraid of is objectively, even to ourselves, not as bad as things we've been through before.
Right.
It's like, is trying and failing at a new job or new career or something like that, is it going to feel as bad as, that breakup we went through, or that diagnosis we got that was really, really grim, or that, job we lost in the middle of nowhere, we didn't see it coming? I mean, is trying this new thing, even if it goes as bad as I think it can go, is it as bad as other stuff that I've survived before? And the answer is usually no.
Right. And something that helps me sometimes is you think through that. Okay, so let's say that does happen. It is the worst case scenario. Now you're in that moment, and at that, put yourself in that moment. And then what would you do? Okay. I would start looking for another job. Do you feel like you could get another job? Probably. Do you feel like you could meet somebody new? Probably. And so you kind of start thinking through what you would do in those situations, if those did happen. And that's helped me settle down a little bit and go, okay, you know what? I can handle it.
Yeah.
There's something that I would do. I wouldn't just roll over and go, I'm never going to work again. And I'm just going to starve to death because I can't bring in any money. That's not what would happen, but that's what your lizard brain, your internal
100%.
body is making you feel like. And, I've some of the ways, I've sabotaged myself, and Clever talks about the self-sabotage is you do things so that you don't actually become successful with that challenge. So things like you waste time, you make excuses, you don't finish the projects that you start, you end up caretaking for other people. Maybe you have too many projects going on at once, and I'm absolutely guilty of that.
Same.
Perhaps getting caught up in chaotic relationships that's sucking your time and energy away from you, procrastinating or not setting boundaries. And all of these are ways to prevent you from facing your fear, facing your anxiety, and ultimately preventing you from getting what you want.
Yeah, because success can be scary because it propels you into places you haven't been before and that you're not comfortable in. Even whatever, there is a downside to having more responsibility at work or making more money. People can hear that and think that's crazy. That would never, strike me as, that does lead to discomfort because you're in a new area where you haven't been before. And so there could be unconscious drives keeping you from those things because deep down, it's going to be a different life if you, again, have more responsibility or make more money or have other, yes, it will bring good things into your life as well, but it can make you uncomfortable. And there can be a tendency among people who have that scarcity mindset to prevent those changes from happening and on some deep unconscious level.
Yeah. And I just kind of would like to kind of wrap up this chapter. There's a lot more in here, but one of the more powerful things that struck me in this chapter was Glover's vulnerability, talking about him writing this book.
Yes, I loved it.
And he talked about how, initially the No More Mr. Nice Guy information was just basically going to be shared with some of his clients who were struggling. He was just, writing a few pages here and sharing them, with notes with people and stuff. And he got some feedback from patients and family and friends saying, hey, you really should make a book. You should make a book out of this. And so he started writing this book. And before long, he started to hear things like, this is going to be a bestseller. You're going to be on Oprah.
Right.
You're going to be rich. And so that started to change his mindset to needing to have everything perfect in this book in order for it to offer any value to anybody, in order for it to be published. And so it took him 6 years to write this book. And he actually went to therapy to figure out why he couldn't finish this book.
Yeah.
And what he had said was he found out from a wise person who said to him, listen, give yourself permission to never publish this book. And eventually he ended up finishing the book after taking that pressure off of himself. And this guy who basically wrote, has been studying this and has, 1,800 hours of nice guy groups and therapy. And he's writing this book, and he himself ran into this, the same issue where it needed to be perfect and
right.
Otherwise it couldn't be put out there, and feeling these fears and anxiety. And once he took that pressure off of himself, he was able to finish the book and get that published. And one of the biggest takeaways I had was that his mindset changed once, or his ability to write the book changed once his mindset changed, which was from this needed to be perfect. You are doing it to become rich, to be on Oprah, and it needs to be perfect in order for all these things to happen. He changed from that, which, he was getting all that pressure, to, will this information help my clients?
Right.
And once he refocused on his original intent, he was able to finish the book, and it's become a bestseller. It's definitely made him wealthy, and it just goes to show that if you focus on the original intent of why you're doing something and being able to stick to that will absolutely help you move through any type of fears. But as he showed, he vacillated between being focused on that, then losing focus, and then getting focused back on that again. And I think it's important, for all of us to allow ourselves and not beat ourselves up if we get swept up in all of those shoulds and all of those external pressures and ideas, and so for me, that was a really nice way to wrap up the book.
Yeah, I experienced a much smaller scale version of that with the first episode of this podcast, where I had to at one point say, okay, if we keep trying this and there's never a version of this that I am comfortable with releasing, then we don't release it.
Yeah.
And it was only after I came to that conclusion that the next one we did, it flowed. It was easy. I mean, I'm sure if I went back and listened to that first episode that we actually released, I'd probably be mortified. I mean, based on how many filler words and uhs and ums I'm throwing in there, and how nervous I am.
Those were all me. That wasn't you. You've been great.
No, I've got some of those too, and I'm working on it as well. But it would be shocking, as bad as that first episode is. Man, if you guys heard the versions we weren't comfortable airing, they're so much worse, and so much talking about stuff that. And that's the other thing. I think of, the personal information that we shared that I wasn't comfortable with, and compare that to last week's episode on healthy masturbation and, and all the anxiety I had about even just covering that topic at a level of, here's what Dr. Glover says. It still makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Much less. It's not like we got into personal techniques or habits or anything like that. But
the next podcast will be about unhealthy masturbation, so we'll balance it out.
Yes. It's been shocking to me to realize, if you just let go of, what if this doesn't work out, then some pretty cool stuff can work out.
Yeah.
Where if you just hold on to that idea of, oh no, what if this doesn't go exactly the way I want it to? That can paralyze you and stop you from taking any chances or doing anything worth doing.
For sure.
Okay. So thanks for taking the lead on that chapter, Dan. Like I said, I listened to it yesterday, but I didn't go through my highlighter and make all the usual notes. So if my performance, was way worse than it usually is, that's the reason why. So next week we will do, there's a couple things I want to accomplish with our next episode. We are out of chapters, so we're not going to be doing a new chapter, but I would like to, you and I can do a little bit of a post-mortem on our experience with the book. We can talk a little bit about other books that Dr. Glover himself recommends and tells people that they should, consider going to next. And then also, I've got two other books that are kind of in the No More Mr. Nice Guy cinematic universe that Dr. Glover has created as a machine to help guys and pay for his place in Puerto Vallarta. And we'll cover those books a little bit and talk about, the two different approaches that they have, and whether people would be interested in visiting those other books.
Yeah.
The other thing you and I are going to do is I'm going to go through and change our episode names to reflect the fact that these last 9 episodes that we've done are really kind of a book club style, where we take a book and you and I do a little bit of review and analysis of each of the chapters. But there will be podcasts that we release in the not too distant future that are not just based on books. They'll be based on other things. Like advice or TV shows or movies.
Yeah, yes. I'm excited for those. That'll be fun.
And so I'm going to update the titles a little bit and the maybe the numbering as well of our current episodes, so that it'll make a little bit more sense when we start releasing those other kinds of podcasts that are on different types of topics. So I'm looking forward to that. So all right, we're almost through this book. We just have one more wrap up to go, and then it'll be on to the next thing. And maybe in our next episode we'll go ahead and announce what book we're going to cover next.
It sounds great. Thanks for your time today.
No problem. I had a good time on this one. I liked getting a little bit more into the personal stuff. It was fun.
Yeah, I did too. Appreciate it.
All right, cool.
Have a good
Thanks,
one.
Dan. I will chat with you later today.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.